Like,
Well, just basically asking about your faith and stuff, and
okay.
just go from there. So, what's your name?
My name is Ming Hao.
Ming
Call me
Hao.
Ming. Ming.
Ming. Okay, and where are you from?
I'm from San Diego.
San Diego. Okay, and this is your university.
Yeah, I'm a student here. That's what you're
Okay,
asking.
and what are you studying?
I'm studying biology.
Okay, and how's it going?
Pretty good, pretty good. Hoping to get into PA school, but we'll see. We'll see.
Okay, well, I pray it works out for you. And so, tell me, what do you believe about God?
I am agnostic, I would identify as. And
And what does that mean for you?
for me, it means I have no idea what's out there, and I can't have any idea.
Mm.
For all I know, there could be a God. He could have created us, or we could be the science fair project of an alien species that is hyper intelligent. I have no idea.
And why do you think it is that you don't know, but other people would disagree with that and be able to tell you that they know? Like, because you have people, well, they think they know.
Mhm.
So just because they believe something doesn't necessarily mean that what they're believing in is true.
Yep.
But like, you're like, well, I don't know. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. Other people would say, yep, there definitely is, and and whatever. So what makes you stick with like your understanding that
I would say everyone has their own experiences in life. Everyone needs something to turn to. If God was their outlet, if God is what gave them hope during a bleak time of their lives, and it is what they use as sort of like a compass when they're lost in the dark, like, more power to them. Like,
do you not think that it's true that if there is a God, then that would make him a person and therefore relational, and so you can have a relationship with God?
that is something I actually thought about before transitioning from Christian to agnostic.
So you used to be, well, I would say was if you've changed your position, and I would say that you was a Christian in name only, but I can explain that to you afterwards. So tell me, like, how did you reach that? Like, did you grow up in a Christian home?
Yes, my parents always raised me to be Christian.
Okay, and so what was that like for you?
I think I'm thankful for my experiences. I'm thankful for how my parents tried to uh, imprint like good like Christian like moral guidelines. Like, if nothing else, it left like a blueprint on, quite frankly, just how to be a good person.
Okay.
But I think, especially like as I aged, as I matured, I sort of just lost touch is not the word, but I sort of just kind of overanalyzed the idea of a god. Like,
In what way?
I would say that I don't really consider like I'm agnostic, right? So there could be a god. I have no idea. However, I do believe that if there was a god, this is gonna sound really messed up, but we're like ants on the side of the road to them, to him.
Yeah, and I agree with that, but yet despite that,
Mhm.
he makes himself known to us.
Mhm.
Despite the fact that we are like ants, we are like grasshoppers, we are insignificant beings, he still chooses to make himself known to us so that we can have a relationship with him.
Yeah.
Um, I never grew up in a religious home, and I never had, my nan was a Roman Catholic, and that was about as close to knowing anything about Jesus, although I would say that that is absolutely false religion. And it was something I ended up becoming a Catholic because of my nan, and then later on the Lord actually saved me out of the Catholic Church. But prior to him saving me, I used to think like, God was a million miles away, and as long as we were good people, that's all that really mattered at the end of the day. Even though technically I wasn't good, I did things that wasn't right. I drank, I got drunk with my friends, I did all those things that God would say, what are you doing? But I didn't think I was hurting anybody, because I was just doing my thing, and that was the way I chose to, very badly live my life. But then, it was when Jesus saved me that he brought me into relationship. And I got to experience for the first time his love and his peace and his joy. and I get to have a relationship with him because he makes himself available to me. He makes himself known to me. And so, and that's something that I couldn't achieve on my own. And it's something that the Lord has done for me and through me by revealing himself to me. But I believe that God has made himself known to us. You would agree, I would hope, that it would be virtually impossible for suddenly there to be a big bang one day and suddenly here we are, poof, And even if they say, we were just these little molecules, like where did those little molecules come from? To think that one day there was absolutely nothing and then all of a sudden there was this a bang and then suddenly there's this, it just makes no sense. But to have a creator, for example, Isaac Newton, he discovered gravity. He said if it had been one ratio more or less powerful, then we wouldn't be able to inhabit the earth. And the fact that it is as perfect as it is proves to him that there has to be a God. The universe the way the sun comes up every day and goes down every day, and it doesn't fall from the sky and burn us all up. How we are able to, in spite of human beings, we even though we're not good, we're still not as bad as we could be. That we have there's not everybody, because there's some really wicked people out there, but you wouldn't want to murder somebody, would you? You wouldn't know, because that morality, that even though we're not perfect beings, the fact that we recognize that murder is wrong and lying is wrong and stealing is wrong, and the reason we recognize these things is because of God. And yet, despite the fact that we know this stuff is wrong, the majority of the people still do it anyway because it's their sin nature, it's who they are. But once they come to believe in Jesus, and I'm not talking religion, I'm talking faith in Jesus, and it's not it's a proven fact. The evidence for Jesus in history is phenomenal, that he was a real person, that he lived, that he died. Even Emperor Nero, for example, he basically, there was some fires in Rome. He hated the early Christians. He blamed them for it. And one of his officers left a witness, and he said that Jesus, they were followers of Christ, that he had been crucified by Pontius Pilate, and that a supernatural occurrence had occurred, talking about the resurrection. And and we were just talking to people about the evidences for the resurrection. The evidence is that is absolutely phenomenal. Like I said, they saw Jesus after he was raised from the dead. They ate and drank with Jesus after he was raised from the dead. The apostles I'm talking about, they suffered and died for their testimony, that God himself had come down from heaven, suffered and died for their sin. We have Bible prophecies that were written hundreds of years before Jesus came into his creation, that he fulfilled, like Isaiah 53, that the Lord shall put upon him all of our sin, and by his stripes we are healed. It was written hundreds of years before Jesus came in to his creation, that he would be born through a virgin, that he would be called Emmanuel, God with us, that he would be called, to us a child is given, a son is born, upon his shoulders shall be the government. He'll be born in Bethlehem, he'll come before the second temple is destroyed. All of this is in Tanakh, the Jewish Bible, the Old Testament. And yet we have eyewitnesses, not just Jesus. Anybody can come along and claim to be who they want. So we have fake prophets that come along all the time. You've got Joseph Smith, you've got Muhammad. You have fake prophets all the time. Jesus not only came claiming to be Messiah, but he proved it through his miracles. He proved it when he died on the cross and rose from the dead. Plus, he had 11 eyewitnesses, 12, but one betrayed him, who saw him be crucified, saw him rise from the dead. And then we have the Apostle Paul, that was born an anomaly, who basically was on the road to Damascus about to kill some Christians, or at least lock them up in prison, when Jesus appeared to him on the road. And not just him, but the people that were with him got to see hear the voice from heaven, and the light that Paul saw blinded him. And it was another one of the Lord's followers that come and put his hands on his eyes. So I believe that the evidence to know God and to have a relationship with him is phenomenal. And it's only, if people, like, for example, they think, and I'm not speaking about you personally, but that if they just do their own thing, they don't want to, it means like they, for example, like, oh, if they follow Jesus, they wouldn't be able to do certain things, so it's easy for them if they just pretend like, oh, he's not, who he says he is and whatever else. I mean, there's a price to pay for that, but at the same time, what they don't realize is once they come to know who Jesus is and they get to have that relationship with him, that there ain't nothing that can compare to that. There ain't no relationship on this earth that can compare to the relationship that you have with Jesus Christ. There ain't no one in this world that can love you the way he loves you. And there ain't nothing that can make you as happy as he makes you. And you could have, your whole life could fall apart, and yet you can still have joy because it comes from within. It's supernatural, it's from God, and it comes through knowing who Jesus is. So I believe you can know who God is, and I believe he has revealed himself to us, not just in his creation, but in the person of Jesus Christ as well.
That's great.
What do you think about that?
Do you want my thoughts on that?
Yes.
I think
Because I
first of
speak
all,
a
it's
lot.
admirable to have so much faith in something. I think it's a great thing. I think having hope when there's none, always having something to sort of look out to or reach out to for help, for your guidance, that's absolutely amazing. I believe religion in general is a net positive on this world, and the way you're almost beaming when you're talking about Jesus,
I
right?
love him.
Yeah. Yes.
But that's because of
Just
the Holy Spirit in me as well. So, because I know him. You say it's just good to have something to cling on to, but that's not true. My relationship with Jesus is more real to me, which is more real than my relationship with anybody else on this earth. And it's the one relationship that if I had to suffer and die for, I would a million trillion times over. And I would sacrifice everything I had to have Jesus. And there's nothing more important to me, like the air in my lungs, my life, materialism, anything. Nothing compares to Jesus. And the reason why is not because, he gives me hope or anything, but because I know him and I have relationship with him. And because I have that relationship with him, I can say with absolute confidence that if I had to die for my faith in Jesus, I would do it. And so, and it's not because it's just something that I cling to in my dark days. I have dark days.
One second.
Yeah.
I don't mean like you cling on to him when you need help. I just mean almost like a guiding hand, like a parent's hand, right? Like it's not necessarily something you turn to only when you need it. It's just something that sort of like guides your life, just sort of like just leads you along the right path. I mean, it's
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, it's like I said, it's more than that.
I know.
It's a relationship with your creator. Put it this way, your mother gave birth to you on this earth, right? Okay, now, how would she feel if you said, I don't want to know you, I'm just going to act like you don't exist, and I'm going to go and live and do whatever I want because that's what feels good to me? Well, in the same way that your mother gave birth to you on this earth, God formed you in your mother's womb. God created you. God gave you the air in your lungs. He gave you your food, your provisions, your life, your family. He gave you everything. And so, likewise, and you go, well, you know what, I'm not really sure that you're real, even though the evidence is you every time you look in the mirror. But I'm just going to go and live my life and do whatever I want because that's what feels right to me. And so therefore you miss out on a relationship with him. But there are consequences to our actions. So if we choose a life of sin, rebellion, and we reject him, there's no more sacrifice for sin. Because even though we're sinners, even though we've broken all God's laws, even though we deserve wrath, and we can disagree with that if you want, but that's because man doesn't recognize how sinful they are, Christ still came into his creation. He still lived a perfect life, suffered and died in our place so that we could have eternal life. You think about suffering in this world, think about God taking on human flesh, allowing sinful men that he created to crucify him so that he could pay for everybody's sin.
Sarah, security is telling us that we can't be in the residential area.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Well. Okay. We're gonna go. Okay. So, imagine. Can you imagine that?
Whatever you believe in, that is your prerogative.
Well, I
and
just,
I'm
I would love
glad.
to open your mind up to the fact.
No,
Let me
I
explain one thing
understand
to
what
you
you're trying
before
to
we
do.
go. We're gonna.
I'm so sorry. I will need to ask. I can help you with getting in contact with folks just because it is a
No, we're
residential
gonna.
area.
We're moved. But before we go, I want to explain one thing to you very quickly, if that's okay. So, if you was to believe from your heart that Jesus is God, that he died for all your sin, past, present, future, was buried and raised on the third day. If you was to believe that in your heart and you was to confess him as your Lord, Jesus would save you. And when he saves you, he'll give you a new heart, put his spirit inside of you, and then he'll bring you into relationship. And that's what it's about. It's about relationship. But let me give you this gospel track, and we'll just keep it.
No, no, really.
All right, okay. Okay, all right. Well, my prayer is for you to come to know Jesus, okay? All right. Because he's real. He's very real. All right, God bless.
If you need help with a film permit in the future, you can reach out to the events office.
Okay, thank you.